Hello everyone. Today me and my group mates are going to talk about Azerbaijan in Soviet times. My group mate Pervin will talk about history. Elvin will talk about politics. Nazin and Lala culture. Uh, and the last Elvin and Oruj will talk about economics. After the occupation of 11 Red Army, the Soviet regime was established in northern Azerbaijan. The Soviet period of Azerbaijan's history has begun. The Second Republic, the Soviet Socialist Republic, was established in Azerbaijan. Initially, power was in the hands of the revolutionary committees. In the spring of 1921, elected Soviet bodies were established local government. First, the Bolsheviks spoke under the slogan Independent Soviet Azerbaijan for the sake of an official statement. Azerbaijan was also formally granted independence. Azerbaijan could independently establish economic, trade, and diplomatic relations with foreign countries. Azerbaijan also had own military forces, but it didn't last long. Gradually, this formal independence was taken away from Azerbaijan by the center. In Soviet times, it was really difficult to move within the country from one place to another. You were so tied to your workplace and that you couldn't move away. Taking a trip abroad was just a fantasy for people because there was an iron curtain which isolated Soviet citizens from the rest of the world. From my point of view, there were some negative sides of Soviet times. People had practically no freedoms at all, and people's lack of freedom was directly connected to the fact that political system in the country was concentrated in the hands of a single party. People's private lives was totally under control. Putting everything else aside, I think the biggest and the only benefit from the Soviet period for Azerbaijan was in education, because majority of people at least learned how to read and write, and the majority received a pretty good education. Now I give my floor to Pervin to talk about history. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pervin. Now I'm going to talk about the history of Azerbaijan in Soviet times. So, on April 28, 1920, the Soviet Socialistic Republic of Azerbaijan was established. The Temporary Revolutionary Committee and the Council of National Commissars of the SSR were given complete power of the nation. Narmanov was selected as a council's chairman. Very aware of the national uprising, the occupiers exclusively included Azerbaijan in the Temporary Revolutionary Committee and the Council of National Commissars. However, this was a nominal procedure, and the true government had already been constituted in February 1920, with the Communist Party of Azerbaijan acting in tandem with the occupiers. The socialization of North Azerbaijan was completed on May 6, 1921, with the session of the first councils of the Azerbaijan SSR. On May 19, the Azerbaijan SSR approved its first constitution. Despite establishing broad rights for individuals, the constitution that followed the RSFSR was formal in character, with the action of the council supervised by the Communist Party of Azerbaijan, which was guided by the Russian Party of Moscow. Furthermore, all political parties operating in the nation were put on hold. Thus, the proletariat dictatorship gave way to the party's dictatorship. Furthermore, the denial of the right of the country's intellectuals to be elected to councils, hidden under the foundation of the Farmers' Kingdom, became a tool of government for the Communist Party and Moscow. The Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic was severely governed for 71 years under the Soviet Union, notably under the administration of Stalin, 1926 to 1953, and Azerbaijan Communist Party Chairman Balorov, who supervised forced collectivization and Stalin's purge. During the 1940s, widespread repressions persist under the shadow of urbanization and industrialization. Parallel to deportations in the Baltic republics, West Ukraine, and Moldova, the caucus saw cleaning of the Soviet boundaries and population movement. More than 100,000 individuals of various ethnicities were deported from Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia to Kazakhstan and Siberia in 1949. During the early decades of the Soviet period, around 120,000 persons were deported from Azerbaijan. The Soviet Union resumed its steadily meddling in Azerbaijan's affairs in the late 1980s and early 1990s, crushing pro-independence riots in Baku in January 1990, murdering 147 people. Azerbaijan is still a weak democracy with authoritarian inclinations, and despite its enormous natural sources, it has yet to entirely shed its communist past.
Hello everyone. Now I will talk about Soviet politics in Azerbaijan. As you know, after 1920, Azerbaijan Democratic Republic was abolished and its leaders were whether exiled or killed. After a while, all the parties were eliminated except Bolsheviks. Also, Azerbaijan SSR was considered formally freedom. It was dependent on Moscow, and Moscow till the 1991. For 71 years, Bolsheviks were completely unjust to the Azerbaijanis. They changed Azerbaijan's mother tongue. They separate Nakhchivan as a separate state, and thousands of Azerbaijanis were deported. First, let me start by changing the alphabet. Azerbaijan alphabet had been changed several times from Latin to Cyrillic in 1929, 1933, and 1958. And then they wanted to apply communism in Azerbaijan as well. Also, it means that all the people should live the same rights and property. Of course, the wealthy people would oppose it, and Bolsheviks thought about that, and they repressed that people or exiled or killed that people, and the repression had begun. At that times, the worst times of the repression are considered as a 1936 and 1938, and it had continued till the Stalin's days. It means 1956, and there were some famous writers and scientists. Whoever was against Soviet regime, he or she immediately repressed, killed, or exiled. There are some examples like Hüseyin Cavid, Mikhail Mishvik, Ahmed Zavad, and so on. And the second issue was about Karabakh issue. As always, Armenians have an eye on Karabakh region, but they were unsuccessful at that times. And they, as well as Karabakh, they had an eye on Nakhchivan, but this time Turkey intervened that issue, and they signed an agreement that means they would intervene Nakhchivan region any case of the attack. And Stalin after Stalin's death, Nikita Khrushchev came to power, and he had a different policy. Firstly, Stalin's personality was sharply criticized, and repressions ended, and all the victims of repressions were acquitted. People were provided with homes. It named, if I'm not mistaken, Khrushchevka. However, after the 1980s, the Soviet Union began to decrease its economy. Its economy began to decrease, and Gorbachev, who came to power, tried to pursue the policy of reconstruction and militarism to rectify the situation, but it was unsuccessful and it ended the Soviet Union. As a result, in 1991, 15 republics, including Azerbaijan, withdrew from the Soviet Union as an independent state. Now my group mates will talk about the economy of Azerbaijan SSR. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Despite the fact that Azerbaijan is under the Soviet regime, it was developing day by day. The Soviet government needed educated people to train loyal personnel and use Azerbaijan's resources more effectively. Therefore, special attention was paid to the development of education. The first measure in this area was to eradicate illiteracy. From the first months of the Soviet era, illiteracy courses were organized. And in 1923, a special committee was set up to combat illiteracy. Also, the great attention was paid to the development of secondary schools in the country, and the development of the university was in focus as well. In 1921, the Azerbaijan State Pedagogical Institute, the Azerbaijan Polytechnic Institute, and the first conservatory in the Eastern world were opened. In 1930, the Azerbaijan Medical Institute was established on the basis of the medical faculty of the Azerbaijan State University, and other universities were established as well. Additionally, the medical science has also made great strides. Mustafa Topçubaşov applied a new method of anesthesia during surgery. Even he saved the thousands of soldiers from this during the Second World War. On the other hand, in 1926, the first All-Union Turkological Congress was held in Baku. The Congress played an important role in the development of Turkology and the transition of the Turkic peoples to the Latin alphabet. However, most of the Azerbaijanis who later took part in the Congress fell victim to repression. Obviously, the media played an important role in propagating communist ideology. Many newspapers and magazines were published in the 1920s and 1930s. Along with other Nashr, several other publishing houses operated. The publication of the book was also significantly expanded, and in 1924, the first radio equipment was installed in Baku, and in 1926, a radio station was launched. During the Second World War, Azerbaijan culture developed in accordance with the requirements of the war, and the cultural figures focused all their efforts on the moral mobilization of the people for victory. Moreover, in January 1945, the Academy of Sciences of the Azerbaijan SSR was established. The subject of war has become a leading trend in our literature, and Azerbaijan composers wrote dozens of new anthems, symphonies, songs, and operas during the war. As an example, Üzeyir Hacıbayov, Şəfqət Bacısı Qələbə himni, Seyid Rüstəmov Cəbhəyə, Süleyman Ələsgərov Gözləməni, they wrote this music, and the opera Vatan by young composers Qara Qarayev and Cövdət Hacıyev became an important event in our music. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nazreen. I will continue to talk about literature, art, and religion in Azerbaijan during the Soviet era. In 1920s and in 1930s, Azerbaijan literature developed significantly. In this period, such as Gölgel Kü, Sesli Kız, Ahmet Javad described that he didn't recognize the extinct system, and this is the system brought operations and the disaster in humanity to people. In 1926, 1936, in the United Golden Pens was established to promote Bolshevik teachings, and in 1932, the Union Writers of Azerbaijan was established. In 1926, in Congress of Argus was held in Baku. During this year, significant progress has been made in the development of art. In 1922, the State Drama Star Theater. In 1924, the Opera Ballet Theater and Theater, and other processes. The Russian and Drama Theater and Kukla Theater in 1936. So, during this period, works such as Üzeyir Hacıbeyov, choral operas were staged. Even the first sound film Mavi Deniz'de was shot in this province. So the arm of the cultural revolutions of 1920 1930 was the formed held people in accordance with the communist ideology in fight against religion to the appropriated atheism. In May 1920, the teaching the religious belief and the performance rituals in school were banned. And in 1929, the transition from the Arabic to Latin script was completed. However, then when Turkey passed the Latin script exam in 1935, the Soviet leadership fearing the development in the scriptural ties between Azerbaijan and Turkey indicated the transition from the Latin alphabet in the Cyrillic alphabet in Azerbaijan in 1939. Finally, on the July, the law of the transition from the Latin script to the Russian alphabet was adopted in Azerbaijan SSR. Azerbaijan cinema appeared on the screen yesterday within the film Arshın Malalan, made in the 1945. In 1986, Olmasın Bolsun. In 1958, Uzak Sahillerde. In the basic after the Second World, great progress was made in the development, art and agriculture in Azerbaijan. Prominent artists Sattar Behluzadeh, Tahir Salahov, Mikhail Abdullayev, and created the spirit of the people. As the part passed in the 1618, center paid the special attention development of the education system in the country. By the end of the so many universities and 77 secondary schools in the country. Heydar Aliyev opened the publishing secondary public boarding school named after the Nakhchivansky, the trained national military personnel in the republic. Finally, now my group mate Elvin.
Hello everyone, now I will talk about the economic situation in the Soviet Azerbaijan till the post-war period. So like the other Union countries, Azerbaijan was also a part of the central production chain of the USSR, which means that the country produced everything in accordance to with the needs of the whole Union rather than the needs of the local citizens. Like oil and gas and cotton products were widely produced rather than food, textile, and etc. So the negative effects of this were partially felt after the independence of Azerbaijan from the Soviet occupation, but it's for now out of our topic in this presentation. So let me talk about the oil and gas industry in Azerbaijan SSR, since it was the sole operator of more than 80% of the petroleum requirement of the Soviet Union. It is a well-known fact that the Azerbaijani economy was established around the oil and gas industries before and during the Soviet period. So due to the new drilling and extraction techniques introduced to the industry, which we know that Baku had several first in terms of oil extraction techniques. So these new techniques increased the quantity of production of oil and gas, as well as the export in this very sector. Other than this, in the early times of the Soviet Union, like in 1920 to 1930, a lot of other industry sectors started to flourish, like electric energy stations were established and metal processing, oil refinery factories were starting to produce, which led to the increase in the weight of heavy industry in the economy of Azerbaijan. So in conclusion, the 1920-1930 period in Azerbaijan SSR is associated with the transition to an agricultural industrial state which didn't consider the needs of the population, but the needs of USSR were fulfilled all. So the most important revolution in the economy of the pre-war period was the collectivization of the agriculture, namely kent kolkhozları, which damaged the poor rural population very hardly. It took almost 10 years to be completed, and a lot of middle-class agricultural workers became lower-class workers. As soon as the struggle of transition to collectivize agricultural units finished, the World War II started for the Soviet Union, which we know that was one of the hardest times for our economy. Almost 60% of the population was obliged to 18-hour shifts in the oil fields and metal construction factories during the whole war. This, of course, was not compensated by the authorities in terms of physical welfare and recognition, despite being one of the most crucial factors in the victory of Soviet Union. In return, Azerbaijanis lost richness, and one of the most tragic aspects of it can be seen from the famous Azerbaijani movie Şerekli Çörek. In the film, the limited access to very basic need of the population. The bread shows the economic situation of Azerbaijan in the period of World War II. Thank you, everyone. Now my group mate will continue.
Hello, everyone. I am Orji Skendarov, and I will talk about economy of Azerbaijan after World War II. Normally, the war had a very serious impact on the economic situation in Azerbaijan. Industrial production fell by 22% in 1945 compared with 1940, and oil production almost halved. There was a serious decline in agriculture. By 1940, cotton production had decreased almost 3 times, and raw silk production had halved. After the war, the restoration and development of the economy began in Azerbaijan. Soon, all areas of the economy were to be taken to the level of peaceful construction and then developed. These were reflected in the Fourth Five-Year Plan, which served from 1946 to 1950. According to the production plan, industrial production was to increase by 18% before the war, and the agriculture production by 28%. In 1946, the task of transferring the economy to the level of peaceful construction was fulfilled. In 1948, industrial production in Azerbaijan reached pre-war levels. During Five-Year Plan, new oil and gas fields have discovered in 1946. The world's first offshore oil rigs were built, and a year later an oil well drilled in Caspian Sea erupted. And for the first time in world practice, oil was extracted from the sea. In those years, steel smelting increased by 89%, rolling production by 70%, electricity production by 76%. After the war, industrial cities such as Sumgayit, Mingechevir, and Tashkent were established. Chemical and metallurgical industries began to develop in Sumgayit, and energy industries in Mingechevir. Also in Dashchesen, iron ore deposits were put into operation. Ore refining plant was established. Furthermore, attention was paid to the restoration and development of agriculture. As a result of measures taken to expand arable land, increase the productivity of grain and industrial crops, increase livestock productivity, improve the work of state farms, increase the production of agriculture machinery. All this based on Azerbaijan's agriculture has been significantly strengthened. Irrigation construction has expanded. Important measures have been taken to irrigate the Churaraz lowland, the Samar-Devechi canal zone, and the other regions of the Republic. Reconstruction and construction of irrigation system in the Selyan Plain and northern Mugham have been largely completed. As a result, the area of arable land has expanded. Azerbaijan's economy, which is shaken after the war, gradually returned to its former position in following years with the help of five-year plan. Even has been improved. That's all about our presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for your attention.